Good morning, everyone. I am pretty sure that I am starting to become a familiar face to most of you. But if you are seeing me or meeting me for the first time, my name is Bonolo Modise, and I am part of the amazing team at EasyEquities. Happy Women's Month. Before I start, happy Women's Month to all the wonderful ladies. Today we have a date with the beautiful and the amazing Anelisa Tuswa. Annalisa, welcome and thank you so much for joining us this morning. Thank you for agreeing to be on a lovely date with me when we talk all things investing. Do you maybe want to introduce yourself more and tell our audience who you are and what you do?
Hi guys. Oh, hi. Hi, Bonolo. So my name is Annalisa. Everyone calls me Lisa. By profession, I'm a business journalist. I work for ETV, but also outside that, I do market reps for Radio 2000 and Metro FM. Outside my 9 to 5, I am the founder of Healthier by Lisa, which is basically an advocacy platform where we advocate for healthy living. And my philosophy in life has always been, when we speak about healthy living, it's not just what you eat, but it's what you put in your mind, but also how you think about things like money. Things like, I don't know how to explain it, but being healthy is such a wholesome thing outside just running and eating and the eating part of it. There's an entire sphere around your affordability of those things. There's an entire just genre just outside your healthy life, because once you are off balance financially, it means your health starts to suffer. And if you can't afford to pay for that gym, if you can't afford to pay that healthy lifestyle, then your entire healthy living plan collapses. So I'm also the founder of Healthier by Lisa. But I mean, outside those two, I am a sister, I am a friend, and I'm a woman. I'm a woman first, and I am a Black woman first.
Thank you so much for joining us, Annalisa, again. You are also an easy investor, right? You are also an easy investor. And as per the mail that I sent yesterday, 40.2% of our easy investors are females or are women. And why do you think women should be more active investors?
Look, I think in a world that is male dominated, while women happen to be the majority, it still looks very shaky for me. It still makes me uncomfortable that the investment side, women continue to be excluded. But we must remember that women aren't excluded only on investment. There's an entire world where women still don't have a chair at the table. And I think for Easy Equity, 40% is huge, because that's not the reflection of the JSE. Because it just means that you guys as a platform have done exceptionally well to try and include women in this space, but there's an entire community where women still aren't part of. And I mean, I remember looking at some stats last year, when you look at just in terms of JSE owned companies, there was only one woman on top. So if there's only one woman on top, you can only imagine the policy implications of that. Because if there's only one woman in the room, then who's supposed to be saying, hey guys, let's try and motivate for more women to actually get excited about investment. Let's try and lure people into this space. So I think when it comes to advocating for women in investment, I think it's also our responsibility for that 40% on Easy Equity to bring people in. Because one, when you empower a woman, you literally empowering an entire community. Remember, an empowered woman can raise kids, an empowered woman can educate kids. That's the backbone of society. So if we don't do our part in advocating for women into this space, then we genuinely crippling society, because men, I love men, but men genuinely tend to handle certain things quite differently than women. And when I say certain things, I even mean in terms of money. When Uma has 1,000 rand, it's a different 1,000 rand to what Ubaba has. So if you advocate for women to actually get their hands on money, then you're advocating for the entire society.
So you know that we as women sometimes, especially when we are in the finance industry, we often lack, because we're such we don't have like a voice, or our voice, it took a while for our voice to be really heard, right, as investors and so forth. So maybe lack of confidence can stand in the way, fear, self-doubt, and so forth. Those things can often stand in the way of our successes. So what have some of your challenges been as a woman in the industry?
Look, I mean, I can only speak as a woman in the business community, right? I come with 3 layers, Bonolo. That's the first layer, is that I'm young. The second layer is that I'm a woman. The third one is that I'm a Black woman. All 3 of them, when you walk into many rooms, you are constantly undermined before you even start to talk. So now imagine you're young, you're female, and on top of it, you happen to be the other race. Some of the challenges that I've had to deal with is, you walk into a boardroom, you're about to interview a CEO. They're looking for someone else. They don't even know that you're the person that's supposed to be interviewing them. They're looking for an older woman. They're looking for a male business journalist. So automatically when you come in with this high wall that, yeah, my questions need to be 10 times better than anyone else. My projection needs to be a bit higher. My posture needs to sit in a certain way. And I think it does something to you. A lot of people will take it in a negative way, but it pushes you to work way harder than anyone else. It pushes you to work way harder than older people, because they've been around for a very long time, and you've got the disadvantage that you're young. People start to Google the things that you're saying because they're questioning who you are. People start to look at the clock when you're working, because they're wondering, don't you have a husband? Aren't you supposed to be at home? Don't you have kids? And automatically when I say, no, I don't have kids, I don't have a husband, and you see faces around, they start to look in a certain way because people are shocked. So I think for me, as a young woman in business, and especially in business news, where you deal with a lot of company CEOs, business leaders, economists, you are constantly questioned. And you constantly have to prove yourself. And I mean, that pushes you. It does something to you. It makes you want to do better. It makes you, the next time the CEO sees you, it makes you want the CEO to greet you first, because the last time they couldn't even recognize that you were the person that was going to interview them.
So as an easy female investor, let's say you have a handbag and you had to select a couple of stocks, right, to put in that handbag. What would those stocks be for you personally?
Okay, caution, right? I'm not much on equities. I'm much on ETFs. I find that equities require a lot of research, a lot of reading, and a lot of understanding. So you need to follow that stock through. So in my current handbag, if I put it that way, I've got a couple of Cetrix stocks. I'm a huge fan of them. They've been around for a while. And when I look at their management style has been quite favorable. Everything that I have of theirs is actually doing well. It does badly for a couple of weeks or so, but most of the times, like 90% of the times, they're actually doing well. I recently got the MSCI China. That has been, I mean, we've only had it for what, on Easy Equity for like 3 weeks, and it's treated me quite favorable. So those are but I think in single stocks, I'm a good reader, because I work in news and business, right? So I've turned my selection of that side has been on how is the company performing? What has been their role? Because remember, we're in the middle of a pandemic, right? What has been their role in this pandemic? Do they look like they'll make it through? And do they look like they might be a profitable business post the pandemic? So that's how I've selected my equities. But again, I'm not much on single stocks. I tried the Sasol and the Aspens, and oof, they stressed me a lot.
So what do you think needs to be done then to make the investment industry more diverse? What do you think needs to be done to bridge the gap between male and female investors? How do you think that bridge can be kept? I mean, how that gap can be bridged?
Look, I think we need to, there's so many bridges that we need to bridge. There's the bridge for inequality, Bonolo. and there's the gender bridge. I think at first we need to close down the inequality bridge. And when I say the inequality bridge, I mean the lack of education that we have. Remember, South Africa has quite a large bulk of the low to middle class. And that kind of environment requires information, it requires education, but it requires simplified education. And I think when it comes to you guys as EasyEquities, you guys have done very well because you've accessed a certain market, a market that wasn't fully educated, a market that wasn't even thought of when it came to investment. So I think that step has you guys have done the entry part of it, but it's not your responsibility alone. There's a broader industry. I think industries need to invest in financial education. The way we do internships, the way we do CSI programs, why not partner up with an ABSA? Why not come up with an Annalisa? Why not bring an Annalisa on board and say, listen, you seem to have quite a good gist in terms of explaining things to the average South African. Let's partner up, let's educate people, let's go to Umlazi, let's go to Umtata, let's go to all those small cities and educate people about investment, because as much as we've done our part in savings, we still haven't covered the investment part of it. And that's an important one, because savings, you can easily withdraw it. Investment is a future. It's literally trying to build up for your kids' future, for even your unborn children. So I think we can do the inequality side. But I think for women, I think we are on our own, to be quite fair. So we'll require women in corporate to advocate, will require women in the media to come together, will require women in EasyEquities, women at the JSE to say, listen, guys, this is our time. How do we get more of us into EasyEquities? How do we get more of us into the boardroom? It's such a painful process, because even in rooms where you have another woman next to you, you guys don't seem to communicate properly and say, how do we bring more women in? So I think it's our responsibilities as women to go beyond that EasyEquities 40%, to go beyond Women's Month, to go beyond just tweeting about motivational stuff, about just to tap the next woman and ask her, dude, do you have an EasyEquity account? Dude, how are you doing with investments? Do you need any help? I started a recent trend with my friends that when it's someone's birthday, I don't buy them a gift. I send them a voucher, or I send them like a mini investment package and say, hey, just look at A, B, C, and D. That goes a very long way, because if you were to introduce the friends, instead of buying them that 1,000 Rand handbag, give them an EasyEquity voucher and say, hey, here's 1,000 Rand. These are the kind of stocks that I'm currently investing. Yes, I'm not a financial advisor, but you can start here. That will go very far.
If I come in with an assumption that the finance industry or the investment industry is hard to break into and it's black and white, how would you then convince me that investment is actually an exciting industry to be a part of? How would you then try and convince me?
I'm not trying to convince you. I'm kidding. But I think think of it as going to the gym, right? You don't automatically see your six-pack. You don't go to the gym today and that flat stomach is there already. It takes years of practice. It takes years of falling. When gyms were open, there would be months or 3 where you don't use that gym membership, where you just like, you know what, I'm too busy for this. But you always go back. And the more consistent you become, the more you start to Google those little recipes on how to, or just those exercises that you do at the gym, the better you become. And you start to enjoy gym. And once you start to see a bit of results, then you start to be like, okay, instead of coming 3 times a week, let me actually do it 5 times a week. Similar to investment, start small, but have a clear understanding that I want to do this. Even if it takes me 5 years to get it, I'll get it right. Even if I start with 100 Rand, it's still an investment. If I'm consistent in that 100 Rand, if I start to put 100 Rand every month when I get paid, then next year when I come back, I'll be like, I've paid off certain debts. So hey, let me add 200 rand now. So it's such a gradual process. I don't want anyone to rush into investment. Same way that if you to run too fast on a treadmill and you're a beginner, then you start to injure yourself. Start slow, start on the dumbbells, and then push yourself up. And the more you gain the momentum, the more you research, the more you read, the more you look at people around you also and see who can you learn from, the better you become. So that's really the only way I can, like, I genuinely, I can advise someone, because again, investment is personal. It's like savings. It's the same way that I can't say, put in 1,000 rand, put in 10,000 rand. We don't know your affordability. And a lot of people have been scared away thinking that investment is supposed to be this platform where, sorry, someone keeps calling me. Thinking that investment is supposed to be this platform where you need to have a lump sum of money, where you need to have this big capital to, and again, I'll go back to what you guys have done, is you've made it easier, you've made it accessible that anyone can buy, that having 100 rand can actually go a very long way. It's good enough to get you somewhere.
So would you have one advice that you can give to women who haven't yet started investing and they don't have an academic background in the finance industry? One advice to all our ladies watching but are scared to invest or start, because they don't really know how or where to start, or, the fear is basically standing in the way of them making that step.
Look, I think the biggest step is if someone has signed up already, that's a big step, because you're already inside. You're already inside. Next step is do a bit of reading. I'm a firm believer of read before you start anything. Understand what you're getting yourself into, and start small. Start small. Start as little as 100 rand or 500 rand. Don't try and go in too hard, because you're gonna get confused. I'm a firm reader again of research, but be an avid reader. Read things like the Business Day, read things like MoneyWeb, go through JSE's ShareNet, because those three platforms, they give you a bit of insight on the companies that you're interested in, but also they give you a world view on global politics or global economies. So if you are trying, for example, to invest in China, you need to understand what currently is happening in China, how the Chinese economy is doing, how their politics actually structure just their entire policy making. So you need to be a firm reader of genuine economics and politics, and try and find like the understandable platforms. Like, I'll make an example, Fin24. If you read an article on Fin24 and you go through Business Day, it's the same story, but it's written in different tone, so that you and I can also understand it, even though we're not financial advisors or invest like normal investors. So I think find a way. Also get into circles. I mean, I'm on Twitter and I tweet every now and again. I don't want people to follow me because I tweet about finance. Every now and again, I'll drop a few explainers and try and explain to people. Get into circles. After I tweeted, I realized there were other women in investment. So we literally started to follow each other, and every now and again you'll DM and say, hey, how's this stock doing? So get into those circles, break in, ask when you don't understand. Ask. There are men who are interested in helping women also in investment. So follow those guys. I know Bright is always around. I know Chris Gilmore is always around. Like, there are genuinely men who want women in investment. So if you've got something you don't understand, ask. If you've got something you think that you get it, but you're not sure if that's the right way, then ask with the next person again. Look at your circles. The more of you in your crew understand it, the better, because it means you guys can engage more on it.
So Annalisa, you read a lot and you are probably aware of the newly listed Easy Properties, the newly launched Easy Properties on our platform. Have you invested in any, And which one and why not? If you haven't.
No, no. So property is my no-go. Um, Remember the same thing I said with equities, right? It requires a lot of reading and understanding. And I think the last 2 months for me, I'm in the middle of a pandemic. I'm a business journalist. There hasn't been very good news to excite me around property. However, I think once things start to align on my side, in terms of money, I'll put in a bit of money in it. And not because I am excited about property. No, I genuinely don't. I'm not a fan of property, but because I think there's potential. There's potential that the property market in a year or two will start to bloom and will start to just do amazing things for those who have money to invest in it. And for those who are planning to invest in it, I think it's a good one. Go ahead and see what you are interested in. But at this stage, I don't have any property stocks. I don't even play around property. At some stage I had into on my portfolio before the Easy Property one, and it didn't treat me well. So
Do you have anything you'd like to share with women who would or should know about investing? The one thing.
sure, it's like if you've got kids, ne? It's like raising your kids. If you've got kids, if you don't have kids, it's like starting an academic career. If you are a gym freak, it's like starting when you started your gym journey. It's a process. It's a transition. Don't get don't get carried away with those ups and downs, the red, the green. It's up 10%, it's up 5%, it's down, it's crashing. Don't get excited or demotivated with those. It's an investment. It's a long-term process. So get in it knowingly that you are building up on that 100 rand you started with. You are building up on that 1,000 rand you started with. When I started, funny enough, I was thinking last night that when did I even get an Easy Equity account? It's funny because I don't remember. I only remember a year or so when someone shared a link on Easy Equity. I was like, what's this? Let me register. And I was like, you already registered. So I registered a while back and I didn't even know that I had registered because it means that I had bumped into Easy Equities before. But when I saw another person tweeting a year or so, I don't know when, I was like, oh, let me try and register, and to find out that I had already registered on the platform. So it's okay, just start somewhere. Like register. If you've already registered, read a bit, put in that 100 rand and navigate through. I mean, I can't explain how important it is to be disciplined and in investment, because like it's the 8th now, we got paid on the 20th, and you're thinking, oh, I've got like a good 5,000 rand on my Easy Equities account and I want that new week. It's investment. Act like you don't have it. Put the money and forget about it. Yes, you can check up on it on the app and move things around, but don't be like don't hover around it. Don't just always trying to, because that's going to give you anxiety. That's going to give you negative thoughts, because every time you see your stock going down, you just like, okay, let me pull out. And every time you see like your stock going up, you're like, let me add more money. And it doesn't work like that. It's an investment. You're supposed to transition in it, grow in it, enjoy it, have fun. On top of it, have fun.
When society says women are too emotional or too careful to invest, how would your counter argument be? What would your counter argument be?
Look, I'm an emotional investor. I don't think that's because I'm a woman. I don't think that has anything to do with the fact that I'm a woman. But I think society has boxed women in so many corners. We've been labeled a lot of things. But I think one thing you must never do as a woman is to conform to those boxes. So if society says women are too emotional to invest, are you emotional because you're a woman, or are you just genuinely emotional? I'm genuinely emotional person. I'm emotional in friendships and relationships. So obviously my investment style will always be emotional because that's who I am. And if you're a woman that is not emotional, that it does not that just goes in and does what needs to be done and shuts down after that, then do that. I don't think we must separate who we are because of what society says we are. One of the things that make me a strong person is the fact that I'm a soft person. So if you are a woman and society says, you're too emotional. I know men who started crying when they were losing money on Sasso. So who's emotional now? So I think as a woman, I think as women, genuinely, we also need to be aware of what we put in our heads and hearts when it comes to investment. Again, it's investment is not personal in when it comes to the money. You put in the money and you leave it there. It's not a I'll come back to it in a month's time. It's not, it doesn't work like that. It's a long-term process. It's that thing that we've always wanted, but we failed to do in savings. Remember, in savings, we would put in your money and take it back in 31 days and whatnot. You see, that was working, but after 31 days, you take your money back and you'll be back to square one. So investment is the opposite. It's lengthy, it's a process, it's a lifetime thing. It's something that you want to say 10 years from now. I started in 2020. I had just started with my 1,000 Rand in 2020. You see, that's investment. But with short-term savings, I'll put it that way, it's something that you use now to get whatever you need next month or in 6 months' time. But investment is quite long-term and it requires a lot of patience. That's the right word. A lot of patience. Be patient with yourself, but be patient with your stocks too.
Yeah, and I believe if we need to be patient and let our investments grow and mature over time. I mean, we're women and we're known to be more nurturing and loving and more patient. So I mean, we should be leading the investment industry.
I
So
agree. I agree with you. I think again goes back to what that one thing that makes women stronger than man is the fact that we're nurturers. We genuinely once you hold your child, you want to see that, you want to watch them with when that first teeth coming out, that first baby step and whatnot. This is exactly the same. Like I think I genuinely think that JSE is sleeping on women. I think JC is sleeping on women. We should women should be on boards. We should be the face of markets because markets require every personality trait that a woman has. Markets require that. Markets require patience, and women are the most patient people that I know. Like we are. Anyway, let me not off ramp. But we also require markets require like we givers. You give yourself to something when you've dedicated your mind into it. Like I know women who've gone back to school after 40 years, so it's not late to start investment if you're 40. I know women who decided, you know what, I don't want to be 100. I mean, I don't want to be 100 kgs anymore. I want to be a 65. I want to be 70. I know women who've lost that weight in 2 years or even in a shorter space of time. So genuinely, I think markets should be, I agree with you, markets should be women dominated. Investment must be a space for women. But again, women need to get in and shut down the noise. Like, I mean, even those groups where people are like, investment advice, we'll get in. You get in and you're like, okay, let me see, yeah, you just everything you say, no one is going to listen to it. Okay, you know what? Probably let me exit. If you want to start a WhatsApp group with your friends where you guys can share articles, where you can share advices and you can exchange, like, hey, let's do a stock exchange. Listen, I've got this stock, you have this one. Let's share. Like, don't you want to add this in your portfolio? And also be cautious because people like imposing themselves on how they do things, and this is your money. Lisa can't tell you that this is how you should be spending your money. Spend your money according to the research you've done and according to what feels right. Because a lot of people, they do this, right? Because people are so well read, they start to project on the people that haven't read much. They start to say, this is the only way to do it. No, you can't have ABC on your portfolio at the same time. It's toxic in a way because you don't give the other person room to learn. That's why I said at the beginning, read as much as you can on your own, so that when someone starts to project those things that will demotivate you, because those things can easily demotivate you. When someone starts to project all those things, you have done your part, you've read, and you know that's not true, or you're like, well, I'll take my chances. So you see, that builds confidence too.
Mm. Annalisa, you are an avid reader, and you mentioned 3 sites. Frida wants to know, what are those 3 sites? Again, can you please repeat
ShareNet,
them?
it's ShareNet. It's owned by the JSE. MoneyWeb, it is, who owns MoneyWeb? It's owned by MoneyWeb. And then the Business Day. All those 3 for me, a good good finance and economic sites, and they'll give you both company news and global new economics and politics. If you go on ShareNet now, you even get like a live view on the top stocks for the day. So that also gives you a bit of an advantage of, I'm in the right path, or let me just search. But I mean, also, I think outside those 3, Fin24 is also good, because remember I said Fin24 writes articles in a layman's terms. So even a non-investor, even someone that is not genuinely like in the academic space, they would even get it. My sister works for Clicks and she understands it. So it's really not a high tone, high class, because also the terminology in investment, I realize it can throw you off. It can make you disinterested.
Yeah.
So yeah.
You also mentioned a couple of books or that people should read and do their research. So Bidumelo here has a question and is asking, which books would you recommend for someone who's not savvy with financial terms, but would like to understand the basics of how shares work?
Can I be dodgy, guys? One of our own, most of the books that have been in the market are male-dominated books. They're written by a man. One of our own, Nicolette, she has a book coming up. I think women must go and grab that book. I'm going to be selfish on this one. I think if you need a book with investment, go and get that book. Go and get that book. I'm not going to promo men. I'm not going to say go and Warren Buffett book. No. Go and get that. I mean, go get that book. I was going to elaborate, but no.
Annalisa, thank you so much for having a chat with me. I'm going to hand over to our head of marketing, Carl Melter, who wants to ask a couple of questions.
Thanks very much, Bonolo, and good morning, Annalisa. I messaged Bonolo because I've been so inspired by you this morning, and I've agreed with absolutely everything that you've said. And I don't know if you've been checking some of the comments in the chat and also social media. Our users are loving it. So thank you very, very much for taking the time and doing so. I want to ask you a little bit about mentoring. You've spoken about reading, you've spoken about helping each other, which is great advice. I mean, you're role modeling, which I think is also hugely inspirational. But in terms of mentoring, any advice to people how to go about that, to be a mentor and to get a mentor?
Look, I think to get a mentor, I always say this to young people specifically, get multiple mentors. Don't have just one mentor. Have different mentors for different things. If you are a woman in media, I'll make an example, right? And you are interested in politics, get a woman in media that can mentor you in that sphere. But have a friend in politics or a mentor in politics too, so that you can balance the two. Similar to investments, if you are trying to understand how markets work, we've got social media, so you can shoot your shot there. Hey, please, can I please DM you? Start relations like that. But I think that's the mentor side. But I think that's the mentee side. But in the mentor side, I think it's not something you can run away from. My mentorship style has always been, have my contacts, know where to find me. I'm not going to spoon feed you, but I will assist you. So if you are, for example, you ask me, hey, can you be my mentor? Most of my mentees know they can text me anytime, but it's not going to be one of those situations where I say, this is how you're going to do your life. It's going to be one of those, this is how people do A, B, C, and D. And you will decide if this is what you want out of your life. So I think if someone approaches you and say, please be my mentor, always be open, always be available. Say, listen, mentorship is not us having coffee every weekend. Mentorship is not us talking every day. Mentorship is knowing that you've got someone who is more experienced than you in certain topics, who is a bit more advanced in certain conversation on, or has access in certain rooms, and you've got access to that. So I think if someone approaches you, know that grant them the access, and they must utilize it properly. But also, it's really, I think we must dedicate time to mentor each other. I can learn something from you as much as you can learn something out of me. So it can be a two-way relationship.
Thank you. Again, great thoughts. And I loved also what you've been saying. There's not one size fits all. What works for Annalisa is not necessarily going to work for me, is not working for the next person. So read broadly, talk broadly, get all that information, and then make up your own mind for you. And if there's one message that we've learned from EasyEquities on the platform, is how many people are conditioned to think that they're not smart enough, that they can't do it. And this is particularly in our context, women, Black South Africans, and our platform proves, we look at the returns that our investors have, they are very smart. And so it's also people trusting themselves. Now, I don't know you, Lisa, but you strike me, despite being highly articulate, you're also a little bit modest in terms of taking some credit. And I mean, we've got comments of people that are saying they started investing because of you. You know, they're reading a book because of you. So I think you must take a bit of a bow and acknowledge that as well, because the impact that people like you have is absolutely phenomenal. So thank you.
Thank you. I just never know what to say, because it's a decision I made 6 years ago when I joined the industry, that I was walking into in a territory that was already designed for not very women friendly, but also it was not designed for young people. When I started working, I started in a campus newspaper, then I moved to CNBC Africa and Forbes. When I started working there, everyone in the room was old. There was only like 2 or 3 young people, and one of those young people was Gugu Cele. And I used to tell Gooks all the time that, yeah, these people are smart. Imagine I'm a vets graduate. Of course I'm smart too. But every time I'd open my mouth, I would just feel some type of way, like, was that right? Was that wrong? But I think once I got the hang of, you know what, if you read enough, if you speak enough, then you're probably right. So once I started to get in that, I moved towards, you know what, let me try and recruit other people into understanding what we're talking about here. And I mean, one of the frustrating things about genuine investment is that you see so many investment analysts on TV, you see so many business people, and they speak this language that my mom at home doesn't understand, which will throw her off, like it will throw her off. So one of the things that we must all try to do is, if you get it, then try and make sure that the next person gets it. If you're watching news, if you're reading Business Day and you're like, this is just too high tone, but I'm sure I can simplify it. Like I did, there was something on text that came out when the president made announcements, right, on just beginning of the lockdown. And he mentioned something about text. And I looked through Twitter. Everyone was panicking because they thought that the president is going to take their payee and whatnot. They were like, okay, here, it's that high tone that I can easily simplify on what the president meant. So if you've got room to maneuver around such, then do it.
Absolutely. Again, great advice. And trust yourself, you know, ask the questions, because there's not a stupid question, as the old saying goes. And I have found, as a white old man, that when I ask questions in the investment space that I don't understand, normally the people I'm asking also have no clue. It's just bureaucratic, legalese nonsense. So don't be scared to ask questions. So 2 final ones before I hand over to Bonolo. So Bonolo Standwa and Desedi, who are the smart young people in the brand team at Easy who make me redundant, and alongside our users do all the work of our brand building, are keen to give away 10 copies of Nicolette's book, because we agree with you. Nicolette is brilliant. She's also been Easy user, and she is inspirational like you. So we're going to give away 10 copies of the book. And I think the easiest way to do this is, when all on the team have got a hashtag invest her. So if everybody's listening, just tag you, Lisa, tag EasyEquities, do hashtag invest her. And then Bonolo will pick the winners, and we'll announce that later today. So 10 copies of the book. So thanks for that suggestion. The last thing from me before I hand over to Bonolo is, in our present context, in not only South Africa, although it does seem to me that South Africans think that we are very unique and the rest of the world is doing brilliantly with Corona. But in this context of a world that is very fractured, people are scared, they're angry because of economics, because of race issues, and so much more. My question to you is, and I mean, you do it naturally because you are articulate, you're inspiring. What advice have you got to people not to think this is the end of the world? Like, as a young person, my perception is optimistic about the future. There's an opportunity. Why? Why are you optimistic? And what advice have you got for us?
Look, we are in the middle of a pandemic, and I understand how people are anxious. I'm human, so I've also had my own fears. But I think it's a season. I always say this to my friends, and I mean, I want our viewers to understand this, that genuinely life is a season. Everything that you go through goes with summer and winter. Autumn and spring, yes, they exist, but there's summer and winter, right? I think right now we are currently in winter. It's cold, like people are losing jobs, you're probably anxious and whatnot, but there's summer coming. There is a year or so, the IMF predicts that by next year, by Q2 next year, which is the second quarter of the year, we would have slowly recovered. So there is recovery on site. And I think, I mean, on our side as a country, while things don't look very great, I will admit, I think there's a bigger world where other countries are starting to go back to normal. There's a vaccine that's being not manufactured, there's an ongoing search for the vaccine now. And if things go back to normal, you want to be part of the people that saw it coming. Mm. So be as optimistic as possible. I mean, in this time last year, we didn't know we were going to be in a pandemic. We didn't know. No one saw it coming. But this time next year, I guarantee you we won't be in the same space. And if you take all the opportunities that are available now, if you're a woman that is interested in business, start that business now, because in a year from now, it would have grown to be something quite different. If someone that is interested in investment, look at potential, see what companies could pull through the storm. Tech companies are doing exceptionally well. And I'll tell you something, after the pandemic, they'll do way bigger. Like, they'll do way bigger because they've shown us that this is what the kind of life that we need. Even the stagnant old way of doing things is starting to shift to technology. So if you are not fully informed about technology now, this is the time where you want to invest and see which companies are doing well in tech, or which basket can I just go and grab. Even if I put my last 100 bags on it, let me see how far we can go.
Yeah. Thank you very much. You said that there are 3 layers to you, and while they clearly are, and they are very important, being young, being black, and being a woman, a black woman, I'd like to suggest that there are many more. And from my perspective, and seeing the comments also from our users, I think you can add smart, articulate, inspiring, and I wish you lots of good luck as you continue to own your space and help us change the investment world, and good luck with everything you're doing. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And back to you, Bonolo. Thank you.
Thank you.
I am certainly inspired. I am completely inspired by you, Lisa, and all of the amazing advice that you have just shared with us and our users. How exciting that we're about to get 10 copies for our users for Nicolette's book.
You guys are amazing. You guys are amazing. Again, it's Women's Month. We should do everything in our power to empower women, but also to bring women to the table. And I always say empowerment is a two-way stream. Give a woman a place in the room, but also allow her to speak. So we are giving women books, but we're also empowering another woman. And for me, that's really amazing. And I mean, I think you guys have had Nicolette quite a couple of times, and she's your peeps. So big ups, big ups.
You are certainly our peeps because hashtag invest her. Thank you so much for your time, Lisa. I am again inspired, and I know many of our female users are. And yeah, where can people find you on the socials?
Okay, so I'm on Twitter and I'm on Instagram. My Facebook is very lame. I don't have a Facebook page, but I've got a Facebook account. So I think people can find me on Twitter. It's at Anelisa _Tuswa. And then same thing with my Instagram. It's at Anelisa _Tuswa. If you're following me from today, then just give me a holla so that I can follow you back. If you're following me from today, or you've been following me in regards to the investment and whatnot, just give me a hey Lisa and then a hashtag, our hashtag, so that we know who our community of women in investment are.
And I'll just highlight again what people can do to get their hands on one of the 10 copies that will be given away. So post either on Twitter or Facebook, tag EasyEquities, and on Twitter, tag EasyEquities and Anelisa _Tuswa with the hashtag InvestHer. So for me and Lisa, thank you so much, guys, for joining us. And thank you, Lisa, for your time. We are certainly inspired, and that was really insightful. So thank you, and have an awesome Women's Month. Thank you, guys. That's it from me.
Thank you so much for having me. And again, it's Women's Month, but let's have a Women's Year.
That's true. All right then, Lisa. Cheers. Have a lovely day.
Bye, guys.